All right, good evening, everyone. Sorry we're a tad late. Okay, so we'd like to call the May 25th council meeting to order, please, and get a approval of the agenda and the motion to move agenda item RI1, the RCMP quarterly report, immediately following the receipt of the draft of council committees for information.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Alrighty, adoption of council and committee minutes, May 11th. All those in favor? Receipt of the draft council committee minutes for information, May 14th.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Alrighty. So that will bring us to, excuse me, the Rcmp report.
Thank you, Acting Mayor, Councillors. So I've put together, this is the first time we're doing a quarterly report, so we've just used kind of our own format and thrown together some statistics in Souk and a few comparables to other areas on the island. Is that difficult to see? I'm sure it is for some people. The top line, I'll read it off, is total files for the same quarter in 2014 is just slightly down. There's been about a 5% increase in our file load and also a 25% increase in the files that are founded. So if you get called to a break and enter and it turns out it was just the neighbor feeding the cat, that's an unfounded break and enter. So these are, it's a substantial increase in the files that are actually significant. And of note as well is our clearance rate, so the files we successfully investigate and prosecute or clear otherwise through diversion and whatnot has increased 11%. So we're quite happy with that. The bottom one, and any questions at this point? Street checks is part of our crime reduction initiative, and you'll see for the same quarter, January to March 31st, 2014, there were only 9 conducted. But what a street check is, that's when an officer is out on the road in discretionary time, just looking around and sees someone suspicious or some reason to stop them, and there's not actually an offense, and documents the information from that check on Prime, on our records management system. So we're encouraging our officers to get out, to interact with people, to identify those persons in the community, whether they're from Souk or otherwise, doesn't matter, who are doing crime here, documenting that. And now we have crime analysts on strength. We have the use of a crime analyst who takes all this information from everywhere, including the National Crime Data Bank and all kinds of other things, and tries to identify where the people are who are doing the crime here, and they need this information. So that's a huge increase. It's a 455% increase. We'd like to probably drive that up to, double that. And I think we're going in that direction, and we've been able to make use of that information that we've received. It's been really, really valuable. The following is breakdown from our records management system. Some of these for a small detachment aren't as significant as they look, and there's a few of them that are. Violent crimes are up. That is probably not as significant as it looks, but it is significant, 55%. So from 27 files of violent crime to 42. Property crime has spiked here since I've been here over a year. Is up to, there it's 62.83%. It's not as severe as you might think, because a lot of that is actually break-ins to vehicles and break-ins to unlocked vehicles that are reported as property crime. CDSA is the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act offences. Those are slightly down. I think you'll see a reversal in that in the upcoming months. Other criminal code offences catches everything not reported there, not terribly significant. 45 from 15. I don't have an explanation for why that's changed so much. Just one of those things, and it'll probably be down as much next time I report. Provincial statute offenses, that's not significant at all. So that's all your Motor Vehicle Act, like other offenses other than Motor Vehicle Act, like consuming in public and these kind of things. Driving a horse furiously on the highway. Haven't charged that for a while. Traffic offenses are up, and those will continue to go up. Part of our new initiatives is to try and make the roads safer here without terrorizing the public too much, but going to the areas where there are safety concerns and issuing tickets for significant offenses. So the comparables on the right-hand side to all other island RCMP agencies. And let you look at that. I'm not going to read it off. And here on the left-hand side, you'll see our statistics compared to the island RCMP. You know, there was a change in arson, but we only have 2 files compared to 1. Assaults are doubled. That is significant. Robbery here, that's cyclical, and we get very few of them, so it's down to 0 from 3. Sexual offenses probably are more consistent here, and there's 3 founded in 2015, the first quarter, compared to 4. Uttering threats is up, and that I wouldn't consider that significant at all. And this is, again, a graph which you're not going to be able to make much sense of on the right-hand side, just comparing the change. So Souk has, other than Lake Cowichan, the highest percentage increase in violent crime, and as well quite a bit over the well above the average for the island. I don't know if it's worth going through this. I can print this off or send this to everybody if you want to take a look at it. This is a breakdown of all property crime. And again, on the left is the Souk property crime, what's going on in Souk compared to the change 2014 to 2015 in other RCMP detachments throughout the island. You can see fraud is 450% increase, not really significant. There's not a big wave of fraud or anything. Break and enter to business, that is significant, and something we've taken note of and are making changes to try and combat. Another comparison of property crime statistics. Souk to West Shore, Shawnigan Lake, Sydney, North Cowichan, Duncan, Lake Cowichan, and Ladysmith. And as you can see, the percentage change 2015 so far to 2014 is about the same as West Shore, is about 62% up. I'm not sure if there's any questions on the statistics. It's kind of dry.
Thank you, and thank you for your report.
Question,
the break and enters to business is, I'm just wondering, would it be a lot of work to do a table up as to the days of the week and the times that they occur? Like, are they occurring between the times that we don't have coverage with the RCMP, or are they occurring at 10 o'clock at night when we do? I just would like to get a sense of where that increase is and the times.
That's something I can get for you. Like, that's something I'm in possession of. I just didn't put up here, and that's something we look at all the time. And I'd say about just under half or that window where we don't have anyone on the road.
Okay, so I was a little surprised. I would have expected it to be higher, so that's interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing is that sometimes it's difficult to say, right? Property owner locked up at 9, came in at 8 o'clock. So if we don't have a witness and there's no time on the alarm or whatever, we're guessing. So it could, a lot of times we're pretty sure that did happen during that 4 to 7 period, but no way to be sure. You're welcome.
So the stats are for the entire detachment area, correct?
The stats are for the whole detachment area. Okay. That's right.
And I just wonder, in your statistical gathering, do you have the percentage of rates of convictions that occur as a result of arrests and the police work that your detachment does? And I know you have no control over what the courts decide or the Crown Prosecutor's Office decides, but what is the rate of convictions so that we can see, a net result in all this activity, and this is what's happened to the criminal?
Right. I don't have that, and I'm not sure that it's kept. I haven't seen the conviction rate. I don't remember seeing it or really looking at it. So what we do, I'm looking at is our clearance rate. So we basically, and most of this, even though this is for the whole area, almost all of this is occurring within Souk, with only a small amount of files outside. And so there's 11.28% in files that are being successfully concluded, subjects identified, suspects identified, charged, sent to Crown, charges approved, which means we met the threshold that Crown Counsel have for what they believe is going to lead to a successful prosecution. So that to us is significant. And then what happens from there, it's really out of our hands. We don't keep that stat, but I will ask about that. I'll see if we can get that for you.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to see a follow-up. You see all the good police work being done, and then it goes through the steps, and then after all your work, and then you find out, well, gee whiz, there was never a conviction here, or it never even went to court, and it kind of throws it out. Yeah. I don't know.
No, it's a good point, and though I don't have the statistics, that's part of my job. Is I monitor the charges as they go through, and if we don't get charge approval, and I think there should have been, then I ask for it to be reviewed by Regional Crown Counsel, and if outcome comes that I think is unfavorable towards us and the community, more importantly, that we ask that be reviewed, and I'll go down and address it with the Administrative Crown Counsel. Okay. Quite regularly we have those conversations.
All right, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Staff Sergeant MacArthur, for the presentation. I guess two questions, and I think you answered one to Councillor Casper there, was because we support provincially outside of the actual jurisdiction. Is there any limitations to the coverage out there that would contribute to increased crime, or is it contained within? I guess that's my, are there opportunities outside the Souk area, like Port Renfrew, for example?
Oh, absolutely, and you'd see that up in the parks, the break-ins to the parks, and that reflects on our statistics here because they're grouped in.
Right.
But we've like the break-ins to vehicles, we've had a spike in Souk as well as outside in the rural area. Outside of that, not so much.
Okay.
Yeah, not so much.
The second question is, anecdotally, do you have any, your stats are on the violent crimes, because that's the one that concerns me the most, 27 to 42. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that, I guess would be my question.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's driving that. It's going to, there's going to be more than one cause there. There's not one single cause. So, okay. And it's obviously, it's going to be our goal to drive that back down. Absolutely. To below where it was. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
In the very near future. So so this wasn't too terribly dry. I put together a smattering of photographs that I pulled off our shared drive. But before I do that, I'll just cover what our initiatives are for 2015. And this is new. For our performance initiatives cover our fiscal year, which starts in April. Our first initiative is to improve road safety in Souk and area. And number 2 is to build and maintain positive relationships with our partners. Number 3 is to target prolific property offenders. And number 4 is to achieve a marked increase in community safety. And number 5 is to target and disrupt organized crime members living and operating within Souk. There's no questions on that. I've just thrown together some stuff which kind of shows the diversity in the duties here in a small community. This is just a recent methamphetamine arrest, and that's not disconnected to your question, Councillor Pearson, about the increase in violence. We're seeing a lot of methamphetamine in Souk, and that's linked to our property crime. This is just from today. This is Jason Fromm in his DARE graduation at John Muir Elementary School. There's quite a few students there, good turnout. Well-known accident from May 11th, shut down the road, Souk Road, for several hours at the 5200 block. Now, the reason there was a lot of questions around the lengthy road closure there. I think there were 4 occupants in these vehicles. It was a head-on collision. Everyone went to the hospital. Crime analyst was called in. It wasn't only till later that we found out that the injuries, thankfully, weren't as serious as we thought they were. But it's our job to do a full investigation from the get-go and not wait to hear that there's serious injuries and then go back. Right? We had to close it down and get the analysts in. There's just lots and lots of measurements they have to do there. And, that's the reason, and you can see that it's occupying the whole road. So there was evidence from one side to the other, so it was very difficult to open it up right away. I don't know how that got on there. Guys clowning around the office. I'm not sure where they got those, but I can guarantee you they just picked those up. They didn't make them, and they weren't spending 3 hours making them. It's range day here, and training is something that's more and more time-consuming for a detachment. We're training in everything. It's so much more onerous than it was 20, 25 years ago, and I'm sure it will be in another 10 years even more so. This is shotgun training that we do with a military member from town here. Is really highly skilled. This is some advanced training that we do, and this was voluntary before, and now it's been called on that we actually do this. So it's not so voluntary, and we do annual qualifications, but we have training and everything. We have every time we pick up a new tool, a new technique, anything, violence in relationship, all that kind of stuff is mandatory training every year, and it's a juggling act to get everyone through it. Bike park opening. This is Andrew Moore, who's actually an accomplished not BMX, but motocross rider. He's rides competitively, so he's out there testing out the new park at Sea Park, which is a great thing. The park, not so much Constable Moore. I thought there was more in there, but anyway, that's the end of that. There's no more questions.
Great,
First
thank
quarterly
you,
report is done.
I just have one question. So you touched on the fact that Souk now has a crime analysis within our detachment?
No, not within it. We have access to one in Island District.
Okay.
And we also utilize the one in West Shore quite a bit because there's just so much back and forth. So even though we don't pay for their crime analyst, we get a lot of use out of her.
Okay. So, and what was related to that was due to the lengthy road closure, it was my understanding that they were waiting for a traffic analysis to actually come to our region to do the analysis. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. So that's different than the crime analyst. That's a technician who does just traffic scenes.
And so the traffic analysis, where is he located? Is it an island share as well?
There's a few of them, and I think that he might have come from Duncan Detachment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions? Great, thank you for your report. All right, now we'll move on to delegations. Each delegation has a presentation time limit of 5 minutes. So first up is Denise Koo and William Shute for the Scouts Canada Pacific Jamboree.
Okay. I'm representing Camp Bernard. This summer we're having a jamboree. Jamboree is basically a gathering of scouts that participate in a number of adventure activities. So this year we're looking at about 2,500 youth, the ages 11 to 18, and another 500 adults, which are just big kids mostly. The jamboree is a week long. It's running from the 11th to the 18th of July. I understand the municipality has received a letter inviting them to attend. We have already had a lot of participation from many members of the Sioux community and the Victoria community. The Rcmp have been involved and are assisting us, as well as CRD. Mike Hicks has been very helpful in doing a lot of preparations from an emergency planning perspective. So during the Jamboree, we're looking at the youth participating in logger sports, kayaking, canoeing. There is some mountain biking, hiking overnight on the Wanafuka Trail. So this is the culmination of 4 years of planning, and I look forward to more involvement of Souk. This is just the first of 2. There will be another Jamboree in 2019, the same time frame.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Director Mike Hicks.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This is the first time I've been here in 7 years. And the reason for those that don't know me, I'm Mike Hicks. I'm the Regional Director of the Juan de Fuca, your neighbors. The CRD is bringing forth a document on Wednesday called the Regional Sustainability Strategy. I think they came and talked to you about that a few months ago, how wonderful it is and everything else. The actual fact of the document, it states absolutely very clearly, and they're recommending that of 13 municipalities, including Souk, have the right and the privilege and to extend water, if they so choose, to every corner of their boundary, to every man, woman, and child and animal. Now, as far for the Juan de Fuca, they say no, that we don't have that same right. We can have water where it currently is in the rural containment areas, but we can't extend outside that. So Kemp Lake Water System, for instance, if there's a neighbor outside that, they could never extend water to them. Or the Gowdy Water System in Shirley, or in East Souk, the water, or Souk, you could take your water line to the edge of Souk, but you couldn't cross over to our good friends up in the Demaniel State. So that's what the document says. I know it's hard to believe that it could be so discriminatory against the people of the Juan de Fuca, but that's the way it is. And the reason it's that way is that the municipalities, I don't know if Souk's among them, but I haven't asked to see who's with it or not, believe that the municipalities can use their OCPs, they can use their zoning bylaws, they can use their planners, they can use their administrators to establish density in their area. But the Juan de Fuca does not have that skill. We cannot use our OCPs, our zoning, our planners. We have to use water as a way to contain density. Even though the same document predicts that the Juan de Fuca will have 700 homes built in the next 20 years, Souk will have 5,000, Langford will have 13,000, Metchosin will have 50. And they are extending water to their whole boundary. They're very much like the Juan de Fuca, but for some reason, we're not going to be afforded that opportunity. So I would hope, I pray that most of you would agree that water is a God-given right, should be available to everyone. Density and planning shouldn't be dictated by it. No politician, no planner on the face of the earth should be able to deny a person water. Here's the good news, is the RSS can only be approved if it has the unanimous consent of every municipality. And Councillor Kerry Ray has brought forth a motion that you're going to consider, and it says basically we're going to stand by our Juan de Fuca neighbors, the same people that we share our fire departments, our ice arenas, our swimming pool in Canada Day, and say no, they should have the same rights as us, and if you don't give them those rights, we'll veto the RSS. So it's a very bold statement. In fact, you haven't put that in there, but that's what it implies, and I hope you will. And it's a bold statement, and what it means is the CRD will be back here begging you to change your mind, for God's sake. They spent $1 million on this planning document, and you should go along with everyone else, but I hope that you'll stand by your neighbors next door and just say, no, it's discriminatory, and we're not going to stand for it. So thank you very much for hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hicks. Next up is Margarita Dominguez.
Hi,
Welcome.
Margarita Dominguez, 2075 Other Point Road. You have a photography? Well, today I'm here again for the same reason that we all know. I have to remove the animals from my house, and over the weekend we have more people asking us for help. And we are here to explain about the non-kill animal shelters and the kill shelters, which in our opinion, well, this works. Here, yes. It's a CRD, sorry, Mike. It's a CRD and BC monopoly. By the zoning bylaws, they control the pets. They are the only groups allowed to have animals. Any other animal group can have animals in the Greater Victoria area, and we are all hiding the animals. No animal shelter, no animal group answer the phones or have addresses in their websites, which in my opinion is completely anti-democratic and unfair, because there are certain groups that they are helping the CRD, taking the animals from the shelter, and the CRD is not even giving a license to those groups, like that they can have animals, the same thing that us. And any moment the CRD can come and seize the animals like happened to us. The only difference in between the SPCA and us is that the SPCA was amended to the Constitution in 1960, 1965, and they grew over time because they were the only group. The CRD is the one that dictates the bylaws, and the municipalities follow, which means depends on you, if not in the CRD and not in the SPCA, if you are going to be allowing shelters to exist, because, as explained before, this is very anti-discriminatory, and people have to go to the pound, and the pound is a shelter, it's a no-kill shelter. And I have proven some of the documents that I have provided, and with many letters, that the animals, if the groups, there are two groups that take the animals from the CRD, will not be taking the animals from the CRD, the animals will be put down by the CRD or by the SPCA. The SPCA and the CRD have proved you several times that they do not work with stray and feral cats, which means by saying in the letters that you have there, we do not work with stray and feral cats, means we are letting them starve, or we letting the CRD deal with the killing problem, which means this is in your decency, it's in my decency. I am killing myself to explain to you and come here over and over again, and all of us, we do this, and people do not want to send the animals to the CRD and the SPCA. They do not want, and they keep giving you letters and letters and letters, which means this is your own constituents. And to prove you this, I didn't want to bring this up, but because I have to protect the animals, I have to speak up of this. Eric Sinclair and William Simmons, they donated $1.2 million to the SPCA in 2007. Mike Hicks can be my witness if he's still there. And they donated the land to the William Simmons Park. From the year 2007, I have been begging the SPCA because Eric forgot to put the cats on the well, the feral cats on the well. And you have a letter from a gentleman that is living on the property, has been living on the property since then, that is a witness of this. I had to ask the SPCA and tell them that I will go to the media if they don't help me. The only thing that they gave back to Suk is $7,500. And they say that they don't have any more money. They don't even recognize Eric's name in the legacy page, which means they are not giving anything back to Suk. And sorry if your SPCA, they do good things, but they are not, the animals, I had to give away my animals to foster homes, and she lost all her kittens in distress. This is an animal that we could have saved, but the organs fell because of lack of food and water, and we were called too late. Sometimes people are leaving the animals behind because they do not want to take it to a kill shelter, and they prefer to leave it in the forest, thinking that the animal will survive. The CRD called this cat a community cat, and they told the person, the cat was surrendered to us, they told the person that they will put it down if they will pick it up. This little girl came dressed as a princess to my house, asking for the kitten. And we started posting it everywhere. Somebody found the kitten, and because he had nowhere to take it, put it back again outside. The girl is still looking for the kitten. This is another animal that got lost over the weekend. And this was this morning. Somebody knocked on my house, and an elder gentleman. People in the community are doing what, council is not doing. I'm not asking you for any more land. I'm not asking anything else. I'm just begging you to at least limit the number of 15 to our cat rescue. We don't ask too much. We have all the kennels, all the pens, until we can find something else. Rezoning a property is happen the same thing that will happen in the barn. We are going to be rezoning somebody's house, paying $3,400 plus $2,000 in survey from our side, $2,000 in survey from the other side. Mayor, you are present in the time when I had to rezone my house, and the fees kept coming and coming and coming, and after that is the risk that the landlord will take the rezoning to do a business themselves. It's the same thing that the barn. We have been that road. Rezoning somebody else's property is not an option, even if I thank you for offering us. And buying a piece of agricultural land is also not a possibility. We don't have money. I have to fight the politics to protect them. I don't have the time even to sit down and apply for grants. I really beg you to please consider this in the name of everybody.
Thank you for
Do
coming,
you want
Ms.
to hear from them now? or
I
after?
actually let you go 2 minutes over, so your time is up. But thank you for your, and I wasn't at last week's meeting, but from the minutes and from everything I watched last week, there was a vote that was held with regards to your question with the bylaw, and that vote did fail. So.
That is from the 392 bylaw. We are asking for the zoning bylaw. This is a different bylaw. It's the bylaw limiting us. And according to, and we are asking also for a grandfather rule, because it's nowhere in all those articles that you publish since 2011, I mentioned that in that zoning bylaw, it was cats involved. You have all the articles. There is no mention. How people are going to know that there is a limit with cats but the limitation is in the zoning bylaw. It's unfair.
Right. Yeah, thank you. No, I read in your submission that you gave, and you're correct that the bylaw does go back to before the municipality was incorporated. And we do have zones for kennels, and I know that that's onerous to rezone to that, but being fair to your neighborhood and to the neighbors around you, that's what, in my mind, that's what has to take place. However, if you'd like to bring up another bylaw, I guess that's your right to talk to staff and try and ask for another amendment. But this table has been, they voted on it last week. Right now, as of right now, based on where we are, bylaws are bylaws, and that's our bylaw that we're standing with. So again, thank you for your submission today. Okay, so now we'll move on to the public and question period. We have 10 minutes, 2 minutes per person. Anyone who'd like to speak to anything on the agenda, please come forward and state your name and press the button, please. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Bateman, 7083 Briarwood. I haven't brought my reading glasses, so I'm just going to peer here. First of all, I'd like to congratulate and thank Councillor Ray and the Community Grants Committee on behalf of Transition Souk, for the award of, or the recommended award of money to Wildwise Souk and its Bear Aware program. That's aware, not award. Number two, I don't have the reference number, but tonight's discussion about downtown and Brownsea Way, the staff recommendations are particularly pertinent regarding the 4 items that Mr. Zige is not committed to, and that includes the 2-story maximum, 4-story, 2-story minimum, 4-story maximum, and the small imprint on retail and restaurant square footage. And it seems to me, and according to the Transition Souk vision, a smart growth souk neighborhood down there with good bus service, friendly, human-scaled environment, but it also has to be dense, and hence the 2-story, 4-story maximum keeps sightlines alive as well. Mr. Hicks, you were here, I think 4 years ago, when you were talking to the Economic Development Commission about pink salmon and putting it into the harbor. So just to remind you of that. And I think the CRD is concerned about sprawl. That is the deep fear. And I think the one thing you didn't mention tonight, which you have mentioned elsewhere, is that the local OCPs need to take precedence in terms of where those water pipes will go. So if the OCP, which seems to me in the region is typically against sprawl in Shirley and Otter Point and Jordan River. Jordan River doesn't have an OCP, does it, Mike? It does, okay. And I think I've gone past my 2 minutes. Marguerite's comment earlier, I think she's requesting a zoning bylaw change to allow her to have 15 cats in a single property in Souk. I'm not sure where her property is or whether the neighbors there have put some ideas forward, but it seems to be a solution that might satisfy Marguerite at last. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman.
Hello, Alexandra Martin, 6517 Stonewood Drive. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a privilege to address the Community Grant Review Committee about the importance of the water park in Souk. And we got great results because, the importance was recognized, and there was at least some verbal commitment from the councillors to look at revitalizing the old Broomhill Park. So I gave it some thought, and I just want to bring something to your attention. So in many cases, building something fresh and new is actually cheaper and easier than rebuilding. If you could just possibly maybe look at some other opportunity, for example, the Sea Park. Because I just, as a taxpayer, I don't want a whole lot of money committed there because it looks like there is something. Well, we don't know what it is. We don't know if the plumbing is good. We don't know if the sanitation is good. So, maybe whatever committees that work for the city of Souk can also look at the Sea Park because there is land there is facilities stuff. So. And by the way, I just learned about something very interesting. There is actually tomorrow, it's a Sea Park strategic planning study, and Madam Mayor is going to be attending, and I believe you are going to be attending. So, and then there is a 3 to 8 open house. So then I had a couple of informal conversations with the Sea Park staff. So, maybe this is something that can be considered. That's also on the bus route. So, at least before we commit to put a whole bunch of money into the Broomhill Park, can somebody please go and look if the pipes are good? So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
John Broman, 6797 Manitou Road. That's at Kemp Lake there. I reside right now in the Otter Point area. Lived in Souk here all my life. Souk Otter Point's the same community to me. I'm here tonight to I'd like to appreciate the motion for the water type of thing. I feel Souk also, I appreciate Mike stepping up to the plate for the residents. I sat on the Otter Point Planning Committee for the last 3 or 4 years. We established a new community plan, and in that plan we call for water within our urban containment areas. You guys call yours a little bit different. We call, in the regional area, we have to call them urban containment areas. But we called for water because there was a lot of people there that are struggling for water outside the old Kemp Lake system. So I get appalled by the CRD to say no water. Basically, they don't want to see any water at all. They call for growth. I think we've established our growth with our community plan at 2.5 acres. We're not going to be huge. We don't have city lots. Our last plan is for 2.5 acres if we got water. And we're not trying to densify. But the water issue, the whole thing, you had open houses, it was so misleading. I know the area very well. I worked all my life in the woods up there. I fought forest fires up there. We fought everything. Now the CRD is saying that the water, we need to close that area off, protection for water. We need water for firefighting too. Last summer, I got evicted out of my house at Kemp Lake because of a fire on West Coast Road. It was getting out of control. Because why? We didn't have city water. We couldn't put the proper pumps in place. You got tanker trucks, and they're just not quite efficient. So if that fire would have gotten away, it was very dry, within 10 minutes, it could go right through Souk. If you have a big wind, look at what happened at Kelowna. Souk is also involved with that. And I don't think we've sat down long enough with the CRD to say people need fire protection too, not just the woods for saving a few trees. And so it's important for us all, and I appreciate it. I hope you guys help fight us because I know down the road I will be fighting along with Mike for protection. We need water, and people need good water for drinking and stuff like that. There's the part that really gets me, and I've brought it up with many places, is that they took 9,000 hectares out of the Otter Point area, or I think it was even a little bit more, but around 9,000 hectares of our land, and take it and put it into their reserve for their water. And they don't want to give us water. To me, that's hoarding water. And under the Water Rights Act, you're not allowed to hoard water. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brillman.
Oh, it's on. Fran Dash, 2387 French Road North. First of all, I'd like to thank Council for the compassion in repealing the portion of the bylaw regarding, or Bylaw 392 regarding cats and the microchip, tattoo, collar, whatever. Anyway, again, this weekend it was demonstrated, again, the need for a shelter when 3 people came looking to Safers for their lost cat. Even if it had been turned in, Safers couldn't have kept it because they'd be breaking the law. Anyway, she does have a kitty alert that if you come with, "I've lost my cat," she has 1,000 Twitter followers and a whole Facebook group, and the picture of the cat goes up and it's out there. Let's find this cat. It takes a lot of work, and it's good work. But anyway, too, last time Council didn't answer my question as to whether or when a cat is considered to be transient. You know, if she keeps it for a day, is she breaking the law? If she keeps it for an hour, is she breaking the law? A week? Nobody ever answered that question. So I would like an answer to that. And also, other than the 3 people looking for cats, elderly gentleman, he was 86 years old, mother cat and 6 kittens moved in. He left his patio door open, and then later on went to the closet, and there's a cat and 6 kittens. He's 86. What's he going to do? He phones Safers, "Help me." He didn't phone the CRD. He didn't phone the pound. He didn't phone you. He phoned Safers, "Help me." And she did. They're in foster right now. You know, maybe mother cat was upset because the kids, wherever it lived, was bothering the kittens. So I'm going over to that nice guy's house. But again, we do need some kind of a shelter or some kind of compassion on your part to say, yes, we understand what you're doing. We agree with what you're doing. She's not asking for money. She's asking for your conscience, your humanity towards any animal, not just cats. And also, Mayor Bev, you said that the last meeting you weren't here when we asked the same questions, but you, as council, took a vote and agreed that 4 cats was the limit. So now I'm asking councillors to put a notice of motion on the floor as to that question. Can we give a group, not a person, not a property, not a house, nothing, a group, the ability to help by more or less saying, okay, oh, you've got 8 cats, we won't send the CRD to you this week. Because that was very traumatic for everybody, including the cats. Thank you for your time. But I do ask for a notice of motion on that.
Thank you, Ms. Dash. So our bylaw very clearly states, and it has since CRD times, that if someone houses more than 4 animals, then they're required to have a kenneling license. So anybody can rezone their property to enable them to have a kennel, and that's the option that's left open to every person, business or whoever, society, whoever would like. They have to come forward with the rezone to apply
Okay,
it.
but we're not asking for the kennel.
I know,
We're
but you're
asking for you to be compassionate.
you're asking us to
and
break a bylaw that
lenient.
this district upholds for a particular group.
Okay, I moved here. I moved to Souk in 1979. The CRD bylaws at that time were that big. I have not yet ever, other than a couple of weeks ago, to find that zoning bylaw, not animal bylaw, but zoning bylaw, that says I could only have 4 animals. It was never, I've never seen it advertised. I've never seen it on my tax bill. Oh, by the way, you're only allowed 4 animals. So,
Yeah, I understand your concern. However, we do have a lot of bylaws, so to send them all out in your tax
do
bill would
have
be
a lot of
quite
bylaws.
onerous.
You
And
do
nobody
have-
wants to read them all.
No,
So when it
no.
pertains to you, then obviously then that's when the bylaws are founded. So again, I thank you for your comments. Council did vote on it last week and there was a decision made. So
you weren't
that's-
here.
You're right, I wasn't here, but I read the minutes and I watched it and I'm a part of this council.
Okay.
So it was voted on. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hi. What? Okay. Hi, my name is Jasmine. I've been a strong supporter of Safar for pretty much the beginning of it all. And I understand laws. I don't think that she's asking to break the law. I think she's asking for some kind of exemption, since it's dropped on in the society so quickly that there was, like she was showing you guys, that there was some dramatic things that happened in the animals. I mean, I'm just going to try to keep it simple. For me, I'm not much of a spokesperson, but it is a crime now to be cruel to the animals. And I think, to me, that's kind of showing cruelty on a sudden move. And I think there's, there should be, the society should have some time to deal with the thing. It's been a struggling thing ever since the beginning. Not much support for the society, but there is a strong needs. There's many people in Souk that are just like Safar, and I've witnessed and I've helped a lot of them. I don't think we should turn a blind eye to this, and I don't think she's asking for a lot of support. Right now, she's just asking for exemption and some kind of time to get some kind of something going on so that the animals don't go through this kind of drama again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Lewis, 5526 Souk Road. I just wanted to say there's 2 things. One, with the SPCA and the CRD animal control, we're paying for that already. And that is a go-to place that we do call if there's animals that are in distress. And at some point, yes, animals have to be put down. I'm a farmer, and that's a real thing. If animals are too ill and the cost is too high, animals are put down. That's just a reality. They're animals. Not that we mistreat our animals, ever. Another issue I want to talk about was the issue about water. On there we have, I believe that's Souk Lake in our area, and the CRD water, and I do appreciate what your notice of motion, Councillor Ray, that we shouldn't be supporting the regional growth strategy, and I agree also with Mike Hicks. If it's going to limit our water use, then we have to say no to the regional growth strategy. I never supported it in the first place because it's always been a problem. It doesn't support not only water, it doesn't support us for transportation and for buses and things like that. So it's not friendly to us. The water goes all the way out. Interesting enough, goes all the way out to Swartz Bay. The water is from here. We did sell the rights, yes, but the water goes to Swartz Bay, and yet we discriminate against the people that live here and live in our area, and they don't have access to water. And as far as the urban sprawl issue, when we had our OCP discussions, is it sprawl or is it rural? That's a question. You can go up and go high and say it's densifying and making it densifying is the best thing to do. Well, there's a question, and we just had Japanese students here this last weekend, and they'd never seen the stars. I live in Tokyo, never seen the stars because the buildings are so high. Do we want to have that? Are we rural or are we not? So the sprawl can be used in a negative way, or we can say it's a rural area and we spread ourselves out in 2.5-acre lots or 5-acre lots or 10-acre lots, whatever it is, but we're not using more water or less water if we go up. The use for one regional, for one household, just for an example, we have 2 houses on our property, and I start watering the 1st of May and water till the end of September. And even though we have 2 households and we water a lot on our property, the water used for one household is not used up until the end of September. This I know because we go on to farm or rural water tax rate when we use up one residential use, and it takes that long. So whether it's a condo or a 5-acre lot, it's still the same use. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Okay, we're about 2 minutes over our 10-minute mark, so if anybody wants to be brief, I'll let you.
Natalia Demolition, 3017 Manza Road. I've worked with Safaris for the past 2 years. I was around when they started cleaning out the barn, and as soon as the barn was clean, because we were trying to get that place rezoned and everything and use that, as soon as it was clean, the property owner sold it to her daughter, and we were kicked out of there. So rezoning for us is out of our budget, and what we're doing is for the community. Like, people that pay taxes and stuff, and they call the CRD and the SPCA for help with animals, but in a lot of cases, they don't get that help because they don't deal with them. They don't deal with strays. They don't deal with ferals. It's happened 2 times where I've had people that I just know from my personal acquaintance come to me and be like, can you and your people, like, take my cat because I can't have him anymore. I don't want him to end up in the SPCA, because you know what? A lot of those cats, they don't make it out of there. People know that. I've had it happen 3 different times at the place that I work where there'll be a stray dog running around with a collar on. Obviously someone owns him. And we call the CRD and they say, well, if you catch him, let us know, but we're not actually going to go out there and help and do anything about it. So you're on your own. So, even in circumstances where, like, the thing is that things are happening with these animals and they're falling through the cracks because of restrictions like this. The whole point of having laws and bylaws is supposed to be so that it serves the community and makes it so that the people who live within it see good things happening. People in the community see us as a good thing in the community, and what we're asking for is for you guys to help us continue to be that and continue to give the people in the community what it is that they want. They come to us for help, and we're trying to help them.
Thank you, Natalia. You got 2 minutes.
I'm just getting my pen. Charlotte Mills, 6990 Brailsford Place. I am here to speak in support of a water park in Souk. I had the opportunity to look at the strategic business plan, and I note that under enhancing community livability, in the objectives we have community gathering spaces, and I think it would be important to include a gathering space for all the new young families that are coming into the Souk area. So I hope that you can consider this seriously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Mills. Mr. Ziga, you here to speak to your...
I am.
Okay, so your public hearing's coming up next, so you can...
Okay, I can wait on that.
Yeah,
That's
great,
fine.
thank you. Alrighty, so let's move on to... Oh, all right.
I know we're running over time, but thank you. I've been with Safaris more or less for about the past year or so. I'm not much for public speaking, I'm sorry, but over the years I've realized that there's been a lot of people I've known who've always wanted a place to bring their animals where they know they'll be safe. They know where they won't be put down, where they won't have to go through a whole bunch of different things. The most passionate person I've seen at taking care of animals is Margarita. Thanks to her, I have my kitten, Little Miss, and I have my very scared and sketchy cat, Prince. You have a voice. Everyone here has their own voice. The animals don't have a voice. The closest thing they have to a voice is Margarita. She stands up for them. She goes downtown, hands out food for the homeless animals out there. I see her going around. She's working her butt off. She's going, getting the animals neutered, vaccinated, making sure that they're all healthy. I know I haven't done much for the society. I've only helped out here and there when needed. But Margarita's there all the time. She's opening her house to these feral cats. She's getting them tame so that they can be adopted out and taken into society as someone would go to a pet store and buy a gerbil. She takes the animals that no one wants. She takes those who are left out. She takes them in. And I know that the law says for 4, but sometimes you need a little bit more. I know I'm not a whole law person. I'm just your average teenager who enjoys playing video games and listening to music, but Margarita has a passion, and I know that there's the whole bylaw where only 4, but if she's asking for 15, I know you guys have the hearts, and I know you guys have already chosen certain things. Sorry, I'm not all here today. I'm still a little bit sick, but if you could open your heart. She does a lot for the community. She does a lot for everyone outside of the community. Her arms reach wide and her heart is huge. She's a role model for me. And thank you.
Great, thank you for speaking. Sorry, could we just get your name for the record? You forgot to mention that.
Oh, sorry. I'm Raven Markison, 1615 with and Spit.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Raven. Okay, so now let's move on to PH1, which is bylaw number 613, zoning amendment bylaw. And this is a public hearing, so I just have to read a little brief statement here. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in the property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, commence your address to the council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. So having said that, we will turn it over to staff. Are you doing a brief presentation, Ms. Elizabeth? Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. At the April 27th council meeting, staff brought forward an application for 6645 Souk Road to rezone the site from mobile home park to town center mixed use. Staff gave general support for the application, but a number of concerns were raised in the staff report around the level of flexibility in the CTC zone would have for the site. To ensure that the vision of the OCP and the town center plan for Waterview Street is achieved, staff had recommended a number of site-specific modifications to be considered by council. Oops. After receiving some feedback and direction from council, staff went back to the applicant to discuss some potential restricted uses for the site, the road dedications required to meet the needs of the community, as well as how the applicant would like to contribute to the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund. The property owner had agreed to prohibit a number of uses on the site, including bus depot, car wash, cluster dwelling, funeral home, plant nursery, townhouse, place of worship, and drive-in and drive-through facilities. This has been incorporated into the zone for this site. Lincroft Road and Brownsea Boulevard will be dedicated as part of the development. The applicant has also agreed to contribute $500 per dwelling unit determined at the time of development permit, which will be directed to the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund prior to building permit. Covenants will be used to secure the road dedications as well as the affordable housing. Staff have worked with the applicant to come to consensus on many of the items. However, some of the staff recommendations have not been agreed to by the applicant. Under the current proposal for the site, it will be possible for residential to locate on all floors of the building, including the first floor via apartment buildings and live-work units. It will be possible that a commercial parkade could be constructed as a primary use on this street. It will also be possible for a retail store to have floor area up to 2,200 square meters, which is about 23,700 square feet. Each of these items has the potential to interfere with the vision of a row of commercial premises with residential and/or office component above. Staff also recognize that there is ambiguous language around the maximum height for the future Brownsea Boulevard and have taken Council's direction to allow the maximum height of 6 stories within the CTC zone and not include a height restriction of 2 stories. Following the public hearing portion of this file, Council will have the ability to consider third reading of the bylaw.
Great, thank you. So if anybody would like to come forward and speak to this bylaw, now is your chance.
Hello, Acting Mayor Berger and Council, staff. I'm Jeff Zigay, 6645 Souk Road. I'm speaking on behalf of the owners of the property and myself. Just a couple of points of clarity. The 6-story issue is it is actually a little bit ambiguous, but I think it's clear enough in the fact that it states that it's up to up to 4 stories, but for signature buildings, or I'm not sure how it's quite stated here. Anyway, staff and council would have to agree a key building to agree to a 6-story building. It would have to be there's have to be some significant benefit to it for the town for that to be agreed to. So the reality of that happening is slim under the current zoning, and if in fact there was a rationale for it, then you would have the last say on it anyway through development permit. At least that's the way I read that. The 2,200 square meter footprint issue. I mean, 2,200 square meters is a substantial building. However, what staff was recommending was 500 square meters. And if in fact you wanted to do an interesting proposal down there, I know the mayor brought up like she'd like to see a brew pub down there. Pretty hard to put that onto 500 square meters. And so although the chances of large buildings going there are pretty slim, I don't want to negate the fact that if there is a special building or purpose there, that we can't say, oh, it can't go there because our current zoning says it just can't happen. Nope, sorry, you're only allowed 500 square meters. I mean, I think people are seeing things here that are worried about things that the potential for them to happen are so minimal that primarily the only thing that's going to be built is what will be able to, people can be able to sell, what the economy will bear. And there's not a mega store going in there. Costco is not happening here. It's not what anybody sees. It's not what anyone would okay at development permit stage either. So I think that's a non-issue as well. The other issues that were brought up, I just want to quickly speak to one of the, there's a letter here from a out-of-town owner of one of the properties on Goodmere Road, Mr. Graham Edward Smith from Kimberley, stating that he would rather see it basically stay a one-level mobile home park, and that should be no high density and commercial busy road on Goodmere would detract from his property. This community plan or downtown plan that was put in place and that I'm adhering to was adopted by council in 2009. So I don't know when Mr. Smith bought this, or he certainly hasn't done a lot of homework on this anyway. I don't have a lot more to say about it other than we don't want to reinstitute a mobile home park down there. It's the last thing we want to do, unless we're forced to. However, I think it's very beneficial to the community to get this started, and we have the roundabout going in, we have the Royal Bank going in. This could initiate our push for the downtown down to the ocean front, where everybody foresees it. Our community plan is quite clear. It's a great template for a beautiful little town on the seaside, and this is the first step to making it happen. I'll be available to answer any questions if anybody has any of me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Ziggy. Anybody else like to speak to this public hearing?
Ellen Lures, 5526 Souk Road. I support the staff's report and going along with what the OCP says. The vision was, and Mr. Ziggy was part of that charrette as well, the vision was for 4-story buildings going down towards the water and being stepped into the landscape. And it's a little difficult if you have Lincroft going through there to do a 6-story stepped in and have some commercial parking. I think you have to really look at that and visualize how that's going to look, how it could look. And the idea was to make it a vibrant area for people to live and work in that area. Unfortunately, the Royal Bank was allowed to go on part of what, I don't know why it's called Brownsea, but the water view made more sense to me. But about the Royal Bank there, now you've kind of spoiled part of the plan of that being that corridor going down there. And there's no residential use above the Royal Bank. So that was part of the plan, part of the vision to go down there. And also, don't forget with the 6 stories and it won't step in and it won't step into the landscape. And you lose a view of the water. And that's really supposed to be what we're trying to enhance and keep in our community as the water views. I guess that's all in there. It's about the stepping down, the policies of the OCP, and I think you should adhere to the policies. I know it's not written in stone, but it sure took a lot of time and a lot of people to come up with a vision, so I hope that the council would respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lors. Anybody else like to speak? Oh, Mr. Hammer, can you push the button there and then state your name and address, please?
That one there? Mayor and Council. My name is Harry Hammer, and I live at 6603 Souk Road. And I will speak in favor of Sigge's proposal. I am a bit skeptical to the restrictions that the staff has put on it, particularly the height. I can't see too many reasons why they were necessary putting a 4-story limit, while the CTC has been recommended 6 stories. I hope that the council bear in mind that we need flexibility in order to attract investors to Souk, and putting too many restrictions is not necessarily very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Jeff Bateman again. I did speak earlier on this. Thank you, Mr. Zige. Alleviate these fears that there is this sense that we could turn into mini Langford. And it sounds like you're a responsible developer for this project, or landowner. You've read the guidelines. We're very fortunate to have Ellen Lures in this community to step up and remind us what the OCP says, a guiding document, it's true. and also something that we need to follow as best we can. And I also like this idea of signature buildings. I could see a 6-story signature building. Why not? Provided there's not a cluster of 6-story buildings. Likewise, why not signature retail? A Red Barn, for example, the Brew Pub. Something unique, not a chain signature building, but something independent that we perhaps go out and woo to this town. Right? That's one way to go forward. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Any other speakers? Second time, any other speakers? Third time? And that will close the public hearing portion. So, next on the agenda is for council to consider third reading of the bylaw. Anybody like to move that?
I'll move third reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Ms. Parkinson, would you like your vote recorded?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us on to bylaws. Let's start with B1, and it's a zoning amendment bylaw on Phillips Road. I'm going to have Councillor Casper step in for me as I have to declare a conflict. This amendment bylaw is part of the Sun River development, and my husband is a subcontractor of CETA who builds for Sun River.
Okay, forward a recommendation. What's the wish of council? Final adoption. Councillor Pearson?
I'd like to move the recommendation. We adopt the bylaw.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Casper. Now on to B2, it's bylaw 617, Animal Regulation and Impounding Amendment Bylaw. Council to consider adoption.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anybody? Anything to say? No? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. RA1 is reports requiring action. So the first one is the Community Grants Review Committee recommendations from May 14th. They were the Category B grants and applications. What is the wish of council? Would you like to go through them individually or as a whole? Councillor Parkinson?
If we don't go through them individually, I would like to just remove two of them to speak about them, which would be the Sioux Community Choir and the Sacred Herb Bluegrass Festival Society.
Okay. Any other councillors? Councillor Ray, what would you like to do?
I think it's the wish you and I sat on the community grant. If people are happy and don't need any information on all of the others, we could certainly pull the two out that Councillor Parkinson has asked to and vote on the others as the package.
Okay, that sounds...
I just have one question.
Go ahead, Councillor Casper.
Just a clarification, and it's dealing with the transition funding for the Bearwise program. Is that similar or different to what council had previously approved at their last meeting, which was the Wildwise program? Is there a difference?
Yeah, well, the one that we approved last time was for, I think, about $1,500 or $1,600. It wasn't the grant. Are you talking about the?
It was a Category A grant.
And if I remember correctly,
and it was a remaining balance, and there was a council resolution to approve funding for that. And I wanted just a clarification. Are they the same, or are they different?
No, they're different. Previously, it was awarded to that group to go and do an educational program for elementary school students.
Right, it was the Ranger.
And so
program.
that was funding for information for that particular event. So do you want to, let's just, if there's not a whole lot, we'll just go through them individually. That way it sounds like it'll maybe be quicker, maybe more efficient for staff as well. So Cole Poirier Elementary School, and the motion from the committee was to grant $7,000 for a nature playground. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. The Edward Milne Community School bus shelter project.
Your worship, could we have a first and seconder for all
Oh,
these
right,
motions?
sorry. Oh, for each one you want them? Okay.
You can do them as a group except for the Bluegrass and the Sioux communities.
Okay, let's go back to Councillor Parkinson's recommendation then. So we'll remove the Bluegrass and the Sioux Choir. Does anybody else have any other questions on the other ones before we do them together? No?
I'll move the group.
Second. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. All right, so let's go to the Sioux Bluegrass. Councillor Parkinson?
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Oh, sure.
Would it be helpful if I report back to the council first in terms of what happened and what the decision was, and then Councillor Parkinson can ask questions?
Certainly.
Okay. So the Sioux Community Choir had asked for $5,000. They had an application for 2 portable lights. I have spoken that the community grant committee asked a number of questions. At the beginning of the grant process, I highlighted that one of the strategies for this current council is to have a fiscal responsibility lens to make sure that what we were looking at really was a need and not a want. Part of the application that we considered was that while it had a very strong support by the whole choir attending and giving us a performance, which was wonderful, there was very little way in terms of a partnership in terms of funding, fundraising, and secondly, no support letter from the community association. So over the weekend, I've had a conversation with both Phoebe Dunbar, and I've also spoken with the president of the community association, and they will be, the Sioux Choir will be meeting with the community association at their next meeting. And the suggestion to Ms. Dunbar was to come back after some fundraising in a partnership and come back in the fall before the grant committee. And then the second one was the Bluegrass Festival, and the Community Grant Committee felt that at this point in time, both with the number of theater groups and the Bluegrass Festival, that if you're going to, they've already been funded on a couple of occasions, and that if you're going to come back for funding, you really need to be looking at ensuring that your costs cover, your cost of your ticket covers the cost of the performance. The Sioux Community Grant Committee has provided generously in the last couple of years to both the Sioux Harbor Players and the Bluegrass Festival, and so they did not support any further funding at this time. So if there's any questions?
Councillor Pearson?
Hey, Councillor Ray, you said $5,000, but it says in here Sioux Community Choir is requesting $7,000? In my...
I think it was 5,000. Was it
Okay,
not
but it
5,000?
says, it's, in our notes tonight, it says 7,000. Typo? I don't know, just following along with what you said there. I was kind of reading.
Okay, well, if you give me 1 second, I'll find it for you. It was $5,000 was the request.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you help me understand what this was for? It says portable lighting system?
Yes, portable lighting. What happens is the community association, the building does have lighting system if you do your event on the stage. But because of the acoustics, the choir and the Philharmonic prefer to be on the floor. And so they're looking for lights to help highlight their performance. And they're about $5,000.
Okay. And you've recommended $1,000?
No, we didn't recommend anything at this time.
There was a motion on the floor by a grant committee member for $1,000, and that motion was defeated.
Actually, if I remember correctly, Madam Mayor, the comments were made, but nobody actually made the motion.
I believe Alex did because I seconded it.
Okay,
and then it
I
was
stand
defeated.
corrected.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Parkinson?
I have no questions. I just would like to state my opinion on this one. As a strong proponent of the arts, I am speaking in favor of giving the grant request for both the Sioux Community Choir $5,000 and the Sioux River Bluegrass Festival Society $3,000. The Sioux Community Choir is seeking funding for lighting infrastructure to facilitate performances at the Sioux Community Hall. This lighting would be shared among local organizations such as the Sioux Philharmonic Orchestra and the Sioux Fall Fair. The lighting is a standalone and will be able to be stored with ease. The Sioux Bluegrass Festival Society is seeking funding for tent storage rental as well as advertising for programs and signage. 2015 marks the 13th year that the Sioux River Bluegrass Festival will be held on Father's Day weekend at the Sioux River Campground. The festival is a family-friendly and features an array of local visiting acoustic talent, food, merchandise vendors, instrument workshops. Community grants are available to help the community turn good ideas into great projects and support economic growth. Grants should be given to support arts and cultural activities that celebrate and promote our community. Financial support should assist organizations with the development of new festivals, concerts, and celebrations, or to improve or expand upon existing events. High-quality festivals, concerts, and celebrations contribute to the community's well-being and economic health. The District of Sioux should place the pursuit of arts, culture, and tourism opportunities as one of its primary objectives as a means to strengthen its downtown and enhance the city's livability. The District has set aside $50,000 for this year's biannual grant intakes, April and September. Council is looking at approving approximately $19,000 this evening. I would like to see that increase to $27,000. I have checked with cities all across British Columbia and Canada, for that matter, and they all give out grants to worthy community projects. Every year, the City of Vancouver awards $10.1 million to nonprofit arts and cultural organizations through a variety of grant opportunities. They appreciate the value that the arts bring to the lives of their citizens and the life of their city. As Vancouver author and artist Douglas Copeland puts it, a city without a strong, consistent art funding is basically a parking lot. And when Winston Churchill was asked to cut arts funding in favor of the war effort, he simply replied, "Then what are we fighting for?" Thank you. I would like to see that we offer funding to both the Sioux Community Choir and to the Sioux Bluegrass Festival Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parkinson. Just to touch on this as well, because I'm a part of the grant committee, and I think the grant committee did a wonderful job this year with being very cognizant of taxpayers' dollars and looking at what's the best use of taxpayers' dollars. While I completely agree with Councillor Parkinson that festivals and art events and musical theater events are great for our community, I also side with the Community Grant Committee in the fact that if you charge a ticket fee, your ticket fee to attend that performance should cover the cost of your performance. Personally, I don't know that I saw that it was in the best interest of taxpayers' dollars to put on a bluegrass festival when people are paying a fee. We have given them grants before in the past. The major increase in their budget this year for the Bluegrass Festival was for out-of-country bands. They had 3 bands coming from the States, and their budget from bands 2 years ago was $5,000. Last year was $7,000. Now they're upwards of $10,000 to bring in bands. So not saying that that's not a positive thing to bring in bands, but I'm sure we have lots of local bands as well. I don't know, maybe they're sparse in bluegrass, I'm not sure. So unless there's a motion on the floor, which, did you make that a motion? Do you have a...
Sorry, the recommendation to this council is the motion, I would say, and that is to not support it.
Okay, so let's go with what's in front of us right now, and we'll go to, unless anybody else has anything to say, I'll go to what is in front of us on the agenda. Okay, so the first one on our agenda is, let me go back over here, is the Sioux Choir, I believe, and I just passed it. I'm very sorry. So the motion before us is moved and seconded to recommend to council, to, it's not listed here, but it was to not approve $5,000 for the Sioux Community Choir Society for 2 portable lights. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed. I'd like my vote recorded, please.
Thank you. And the next one is the Sioux River Bluegrass Festival Society. And the motion, or the recommendation is council not approve the request funding for the Bluegrass Festival? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to RA2, which is the Sioux Community Association Sandy Station. There's a staff report. Who will be doing that one? Mr. Dillaba? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report before you this evening is to enter into an agreement with the Sioux Community Association for the use of the Sandy dump. Outlines some of the information as well as a draft agreement, and so if there are any questions from council, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Dillaba. Councillor Ray?
Move all the recommended recommendations.
Any questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. RA3 is the use of the District of Sioux right-of-ways. And staff on that one is Mr. Halley.
I'll lead off, Your Worship. And,
thank you.
Ms. Mills and Ms. Sprinkling are here as well this evening. If there are any technical questions. This is basically to ask council for direction on how to bring this item of the hedge or fence on Steeplechase to a close. You'll recall that originally a fence was put up on municipal property. We went through with council some way of allowing that to remain. The proper paperwork between the district and the property owner was not completed by the property owner. This came back to council. You asked for a report on overall liability. There's some reference to that here, but there will be a further report coming to council on that as far as the overall community is concerned. But at a staff level, we still have this difficulty of what to do with the hedge that is now on the municipal right-of-way. And you can see from the attached photos how it does impede vehicle use and does, in some respects, lessen the visibility coming around that corner from the intersection. It just makes it more difficult to see on a sight line up to that stop sign that you can see in the photograph on page 53 rather. So the real question is to council is, do you want to order that the hedge be removed or leave everything as is?
Mayor, may I have a chance to address council?
You should have at the public portion of the meeting. So I'm quite sure that you probably have your laptop and your 100 pictures with you.
I have that, but I got pictures that show that the hedge poses no obstruction whatsoever.
Okay, well, do you want, and thank you for being here. We should have maybe sought you out and let you know that the public portion, that was your time to speak. So right now I'm going to leave it at the table for council to discuss. Thank you. So I'll go first. I do struggle with this one because my biggest struggle is sort of outlined in a bit of paragraph 2 where it says that there is non-compliance. As I stated last time when you were here, when the fence was put up and we asked that the fence be moved, you removed the fence but put up a hedge and encroached more on municipal land. So for me, it's knowing so when doing that I struggle with. Letters do state that, and it says, I'll read you paragraph 2. Owners state that the reason for non-compliance is that they require additional yard space for the children as the property they purchased does not meet their needs for the play space. The owners have also stated that the property value has decreased since the purchase and they need to increase value in order to sell. Everybody feels compassion for that here in Sioux. My property went down. I just sold the house and I lost $10,000 on it. So, but that was a choice that I made because I wanted a bigger yard as well. I believe when it comes to purchasing your own home, that is your own due diligence to purchase your own home. I think for myself, we do have to look at the laws that we do have in place and we need to try to adhere to them. So I'll ask for comments by my fellow councillors. Councillor Casper.
Well, it's not a struggle for me, based on the staff report and what we heard at the previous council meeting on this matter. So I would move that staff be given direction to seek the removal of the hedge adjacent to 6519 Steeplechase. That's my motion.
Is there a seconder? Any further discussion? Councillor Pearson?
Well, I sympathize with the homeowner here, and I actually drove by there 3 times, and I know he's probably going to disagree with me, but when you plant a hedge and you can't see the stop sign properly, and now somebody's going to go into that road, and if somebody gets injured, I'm worried about the liability going forward. We struggled with this the first time when you put up the fence. We struggled because it was on municipal land. And then it's almost like, and this was my questions last time, was knowingly, there was a lot of issue in the neighborhood about going on municipal land. And it bothered me at the time. And I had to formulate my opinion about, you come in with 100 pictures or 200 pictures of people encroaching on the land in other situations. This is pretty blatant when I drove there. And I purposely drove like I would be driving out onto the street. The stop sign, and this is a good picture because the stop sign was my concern when I went there, and I wasn't sure that this picture was going to capture it. I fear that when we knowingly do something is a lot different than when we don't know. So you purposely take it upon yourself to plant there, knowing that there was going to be repercussions. That's what bothers me the most about this. The fence was on there. We had a lot of controversy about that. We were prepared to let the fence go, which we did at a council meeting. Now suddenly I go there and there's a hedge right out against the road, and it is blocking the stop sign. And that's from my opinion.
I've got pictures showing a car road at a stoplight.
Excuse me, sir. This is for council to debate right now. Thank you.
And and I'm going to offer my opinion. And so all that had to be was moved over 3 feet. And it wouldn't have made a big, huge difference. So anyways, I'm supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Ray?
Yes, I'm just wondering if we could make a friendly motion just to provide the homeowner to the end of June to move the trees himself within the area to which he can. And if they're not moved by that time, that we would have direct staff to remove them.
Does the...
I'll agree to that.
And the seconder?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, and I agree for the same reasons, I think you can have all the pictures in the world showing what everybody else has done, but I can't say that they knowingly and deliberately violated the bylaw. At the end of the day, if all those people have the complaints come in for valid reasons, yes, we would have to proceed the same. But I'll tell you, my struggle is the fact that you knew that that's not what the bylaw was, and you did it deliberately and knowingly. I appreciate you're trying to sell your house and all of that, but at the end of the day, that's the bylaw, and I agree with the motion.
Any other comments from councillors? Okay, I'll call the question then on the motion, and just to be clear, the motion is to give the homeowner till the end of June? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Now on to RA4 is Development Cost Charges Report. And staff report is Mr. Howie.
Mr. Dillabaugh.
Sorry, Mr. Dillabaugh, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a regulatory requirement that we bring this report forward. It's actually the same information that is in the financial statements as well, but it has to be reported out separately in addition. So if there are any questions from council, I'd be happy to take them at this time. Thanks.
Any questions for Mr. Dillabaugh? Councillor Casper?
So when the interest income that we've collected from now, is that from the main account, the $3,807,000, or is that interest from the $420,000?
That's interest on the entire amount that's in that account.
And so it gets rolled back into the account, correct?
It gets added to that account, yes. So that's why it's adding to the add column.
And just further to that, what is our rate of interest? It seems relatively low on $3 million. If that's our overall funds, then it shows interest, and it's only $22,000.
As you can imagine, as a municipality, we have to invest in secure investments. And so you're right, with the prime being as low as it is, the rate of return that we get on our investments is extremely low. It is better. We invest through the Municipal Finance Authority. It is better than an individual would get on guaranteed investments. My apologies, I don't know exactly what the rate is at this time. It fluctuates as well.
So if I just may, and it's just a suggestion, not to tell you your business, but there may be some other secure opportunities where funds can be placed that are fully accessible to the municipality that could be paying a higher rate of interest, and those would be from some of the existing chartered banks in the province, and perhaps that's something that we may want to look at instead of just leaving those funds strictly with the MFA. And I don't know, I throw it out as a suggestion, and I do appreciate us being conservative in our approach, but if there are guaranteed other financial institutions that can guarantee our principal amount, then maybe we should start looking at that. And if it means going out to the public and doing a public process that, and invite bids, then maybe we should do that. And I know that's a change or a difference from the past policies of the municipality. But, money's tight, and perhaps it's a good way to perhaps see that money work for us in different ways. But again, thank you for your candidness on it.
Thank you, Councillor Casper. Anybody else? A motion to receive? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, now we move on to RI2, Mayor and Council reports. I'll start off by saying thank you to everyone for holding out here tonight. I let the public question period go quite a bit longer, and I just felt that if there's people that come all this way to speak, we should provide them the opportunity to speak. So thank you for your patience. I just have a bit to report out on Sea Park. This week from May 25th to 29th, the skate park is closed for maintenance. The beginning of June, the pool will be closed for its annual maintenance. And then tomorrow evening from 3 o'clock to 8 p.m., Sea Park is doing a strategic planning session. So we're looking for community input for infrastructure, for recreation, as well as community programs. So anybody else have anything else? Councillor Loggins?
Thank you. I hope everyone had a great Victoria Day long weekend. I just wanted to update everyone on the Community Center Advisory Committee. We had our first meeting last week and had a few groups represented there. The idea of the committee is to make recommendations to council through a three-phase process. So the first would be to work with community groups to develop a multi-use facilities plan. And then based on that plan, the next phase would be to develop a preliminary concept design, whether that's renovations and new build or a mix, something to meet the needs of the community. And then the third step would be to develop a business case for a long-term strategy. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councillor Casper?
Just to report out that last week, Director Hicks was amongst myself and other directors for the Regional Parks Committee, and as the alternate director, we actually did a tour of the campsite, and now that the CRD has taken it over, they're in the process of working with the Sauk First Nation on opening that site, and there's some discussions going on right now. And and it's their hope that the campsite will be open before the summer season starts. So that's good news for our community because, you know, they've got some water. You know, they want to check the water lines. They want to make sure everything's safe drinking water up there because it is serviced by a well. And they're just going over what the standards of operation for the camp facility would be. And there's going to be a uniform fee structure throughout the site, not a tiered system. And so, you know, it's hopefully, you know, going to operate in a short time. The other thing I want to mention is that on Wednesday, there's going to be a committee of the whole meeting of the CRD board, which I'll be attending, and I know one of the topics could be the notice of motion that we're going to be dealing with this afternoon, or I mean later on in this agenda, and that meeting is on Wednesday afternoon at 1:30. So, okay, that's all I got to report.
Thank you, Councillor Casper. Councillor Pearson, anything?
No, nothing to report.
Councillor Parkinson?
On Wednesday, May 20th, I attended the Regional Housing Trust Fund Commission meeting. And I wanted to say that yesterday I stopped by the pump house mural, and the students and their instructors were down there painting the 4 walls, and it's coming along quite nicely. They've started painting whales, fishing, kayaking, and different things on it, so it's looking really good. And I also attended the Ecus Vocal Ensemble, and I had no idea that our CAO, Gord Howie, is a tenor and is a member of the Ecus Vocal Ensemble. And what really impressed me is that he will be performing in New York City at Carnegie Hall. Bravo.
Councillor Ray? Thank you. Alrighty, so let's go on to RI4, the BC Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program. Oh, sorry. Mr. Howie, I missed right over you after that glorious Carnegie Hall deal.
I feel compelled to explain the Carnegie Hall thing.
Thank you.
I am a member of ECUS, and ECUS, our conductor is affiliated with an organization that puts on annual trips to New York to take training in vocal ensemble, and the culminating event for all us amateurs is to perform at a matinee at Carnegie Hall on a Sunday afternoon. So I didn't practice quite enough to get paid. And as far as other items to report, we have started working as Councillor Logan's mentioned on updating on all of the committees and all of the information and reports assigned to staff as a result of the strategic plan, and we will be reporting on that at the June 2nd council meeting in June. Also, at council's suggestion, we have placed copies of council's strategic planning priorities, the summaries of those throughout the hall, and we will be placing them up here as well.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Howie. Okay, so now on to RI4, BC Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program, and it looks like it's back to you, Mr. Howie.
This report is an annual report that gets submitted to the provincial government, just outlining what we have or have not done around climate action. It is a technical kind of report, so the numbers that are in it mean little to the casual reader. Again, much like the previous report you just looked at on the development cost charge, it's a report that we're required to submit to council annually and to make public.
Great, thank you. Move receipt. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Now on to correspondence for information. Page 73, I-1, correspondence received May 4th from the City of Victoria, re-homelessness in the Capital Region. Is there a seconder? Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. RI I2, correspondence from May 18th for the BC Emergency Health Services. Seconder? Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion's carried. Thank you. And now to notice of motion. So I will turn this over to Councillor Carrie Ray for consideration of her motion. You can speak to it.
Yes, thank you. And I'd just like to thank Director Hicks for coming out this evening and giving his comments in terms of the importance of the decision that this council will make in terms of our opposing or not opposing the regional sustainability strategy as it's outlined in this motion. I think it's important to recognize the importance of water and that the opportunities that all people have to have access to water. And I don't support using water as a means of containing growth. And so I'm encouraging support from this council to have Mayor Tate write a letter advising that the District of Sault does not support the proposed regional sustainability strategy that deprives individuals and families living in the Wandafuk electoral area the opportunity to access safe and clean drinking water. And I think the other comment that I'd like to make, and what I've noticed, I've not lived in Sault all that long, but I've noticed that a lot of people who do live outside of Sault, who do live in Otter Point and areas, have been here for generations. And I think that by not supporting Director Hicks, these are generations of families that live here, and I think we need to recognize that this just isn't about those on the other side of our boundaries. It's about our community. So I hope there will be support for this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. So the motion's on the floor. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Logans?
I'd just like to thank Director Hicks for coming out and speaking on behalf of this motion this evening. I had a few questions and they were answered through that. So I also agree that it's not okay to use water as a means to contain growth, and that we need to step up and support our neighbors in the GDF. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, and I will be supporting this motion, of course. And I think it could even be stronger than this as far as that. I think that we vociferously disagree with the approach of using water as a tool to control growth. I think that's what zoning is for. I think intrinsically we forget that there's all types of meetings and zoning applications that and OCPs that are in place to control growth. And I think that water should be the last thing that should ever be mentioned as part of that strategy. And I think that we need to, and I will be supporting this motion as hopefully it's strong enough that we oppose this approach with this regional growth strategy. So unfortunately for the CRD, it has to be unanimous, and they will probably come back to us, and we have to stand firm on that application. So I would like to support our friends in the Wandafuk electoral area. So I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Wright?
Yeah, and this can just be a comment for Mayor Tate, Councillor Pearson's comment about making sure that the position is worded very strongly in the letter.
Thank you. And I too wholeheartedly support this motion. I think that it's besides me that we would use water as a hindrance to growth. Everyone should have the right to potable water. So I too will be supporting the motion. Any other comments? I'll call the question. Oh, sorry, Mr. Howie?
Sorry, but just a question of timing. Would it be advantageous to have this letter presented this week for the committee meeting? Then I'd suggest the only change to the motion is that council authorize the mayor. Then the acting mayor can sign the document tomorrow.
Would that be helpful, Director Hicks, if we got you one right away?
That would be helpful, and what's going to be very helpful is Councillor Casper's probably stating the outcome of your vote tonight at this meeting to say that it's over before it starts.
So if I can,
okay. So
if it's okay with the seconder, Councillor Parkinson, therefore it be resolved that the acting mayor write a letter. Or it'd still be mayor? Still be mayor. Okay, we're good.
Excellent. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. All right, and just is there reports of in-camera resolution? No. So a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you.